Hello, everybody. This is video 4 today. And through the professor, I got a brilliant idea. Through the professors, like, you can, although we talked about, like, instruments and, like, how to set up a stage for, like, a concert, like a musician. So that gave me a brilliant idea of doing the video on that this week. And I'm gonna do the video on Nirvana, my favorite band of all time. Yeah, hands down, my favorite band. And so I'm just gonna talk you guys through how their stage was set up in terms of sound, in terms of the instruments, and what each of them used or preferred, like from the little details that goes into a live show. So I'm gonna go through all that. And this image was taken through reusable commercial use through Google Images. And I'll put the link the at the end. Okay, now we're gonna talk about a bit of Dave Grohl and his setup. And I mean, he was the drummer of Nirvana during the time. So the setup he used was a Tama Artstar 2 with a piano black finish plus a superstar snare and a natural finish as well, which consisted of a 8 by 14 bird snare, 14 by 15 rack tom, 16 by 18 floor tom, and 16 by 24 bass drum, which he used this setup, chief setup, in the In Utero tour. And cymbals were he used the Zell Dijon A series medium with 18 crash, 22 ride, 55 hi hats. And for heads, he used the Aquarian Remo. And for hardware, he used the Tama Titan series plus Sonar costume, and his pedal was W5000 Turbo. Surprisingly, the for Dave Gold, they had like three backup pedals because the pedal broke at different stages of the tour. He had one on the drum, and he had one on the side for backup, and one in the work box for parts. I mean, again, they were very rowdy. The performers are very rowdy, so that kind of makes sense if they have backups for certain parts of his drum. And the sticks was the Regal Tip 5B. Okay, so Kurt Novoselic, he was the bass guitarist for Nirvana. And so the equipment he used, for example, the strings is the Roto Sound bass strings. It was like the RS66 long scale standard gauge, and he went through a lot of guitars. But as I'm talking about the In Utero tour in specific, so the guitar he used for In Utero is the Gibson EB2, which had the 1916 Phelan Blue Gibson using based on each. And so that's the guitar you use. Effects for effects, you use the MXR Distortion Plus during the Bleach era, and then he went to the Proco Rad Distortion pedal of choice, and then he went to the Boss DS1, which was he used that in late 1992. For amplification, he used what did he used I'm sorry. He used the Galen Kruger 80RB, which was used in the Indie Rotor. Although he used other amps, but this was specifically was used in the Indie Rotor. And speaker cabs, yeah. And the speaker cabs he used the numerous Ampeg SFD enclosures in the Indie Rotor era. So that's the Kurt Novoselic's equipment. Okay, so I mean, lead guitarist, the lead singer, Kurt Cobain, is very famous for on-stage presence of like pretty much breaking a guitar every now and then, which is very common. So that's why Kurt Cobain has like a long list of guitars he used throughout his career. But in majority in Utero, which came out in 1993, he played to use two guitars mainly. It was the Fender Stratocaster, which was left-handed, and he also used the Fender Mustang, which is also left-handed. and he went through Martin D18E. So as you can see, he went through a lot of guitars, and there's more during that year. But so for example, he also had guitar and amps, which he went through a lot too. But most famously, the the effects pedals that he had was the Univox Superfuzz and the Boss DS1, Boss DM1, and goes on and on. So that was again for Kirk. It's he went through so many instruments that there's a whole list of instruments and amp and pedals that he used, amplifiers and effect pedals that he used throughout his career, pretty much. So now for their sound system as a whole. So again, during that time was the 1980s and early 1990s. So there wasn't much advancement in technology in terms of that compared to what it is now. But for example, is and for house. So they used for house speaker system comprised of the 32 Pro Show Electro Voice MT4 enclosers and six Pro Show EV M2 enclosers, an Apple PowerBook 160 and Macintosh 7030 are being utilized, as well as the Acer 730 486 SL notebook to control the Nirvana FO8 system. But the redefinition when they used the Toa Sayori redefined digital sound processing in the late 90s. It remains among the most advanced DSP devices available during that time. And the reason and it was configured as a stereo digital with 1 by 3 octave EQ and stereo 4-way crossover controller with three delay group settings per bandpass. And the reason for them to use the Tau Saori was primary reason for using that was the way it made the system sound. That's why they used that mixing and act. So and then for they had like four channels for BSS, DPR, four comp and limiter on each, one on each kick drum, snare top, and one each on bass, DI and bass mic. That's what they used. Gray one processing mic, yes, they used that too. And yeah, that's pretty much what they use for their sound system as a whole.